Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look. All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and we think we have Larry. Larry, are you there?
Oh, I'm here, Stuart. Had a little trouble getting in, but I'm here.
Yeah, I think things are, well, it's typical glitch time. You know what I mean? A lot going on in the world. Why don't we start with the paranormal? This thing from Steve Quayle rang a memory to me about Solomon Islands, and that is where I think, if I'm not mistaken, is where they had trouble with giants during World War II. And the locals told everyone that the giants lived up in the mountains on the Solomon Islands. Unless I've got those islands wrong. But this little person, what do you make of that from Steve Quayle on his alerts?
Well, it's very interesting, and of course that's coming from Ecuador, and you know, there are a number of people that listen to us out of Ecuador, and we do get some feedback at times that some strange things are going on there. Of course, Klaus Dona's done some investigations. There's a lot of ancient locations and underground locations in Ecuador, lots of giant bones. You know, it's just a ton of stuff. That's an old place, and you're right on the Solomon Islands. I believe that's where the Nephilim or the giants were at that time, and more and more seems to be coming out all over the world, and we're also receiving more reports of this upright coyote or really strange coyote or wolf activity, and it's just ongoing.
Yeah. The animals are starting to, how do I word this? Their habits are changing, I think, as the electromagnetics change. But I want to get back to this little creature. I want to read part of this in case people see something like this, because I think these kind of things are going to becoming out all over the world. A creature flew past us that almost made me doubt my insanity. This is on the Quail site. It was about 10 to 12 inches long. He had wings, had gray-blue color, but mostly gray. His nose was long and straight with a large bump on it, like a Pinocchio nose. Maybe that tells you something about what this is. Anyway, his head was bald with a few long hairs, and he had a wooden crown on his head. His legs hung limp as if they wouldn't be possible for him to walk. He had little shoes on that turned spiraled on the tip, like a Christmas elf. He had a very large stinger. There were dots on his back and chest in the shape of a triangle. In the middle was a red dot and a plain dot on his forehead. He was like a very old man. He flew about as high as my chest, and I'm 5 feet tall. It flew slowly and very close to us, maybe 4 feet away. His back was towards us. As he was flying, he stalled in the air, and I think they mean, just kind of hovered. He turned his head all the way around without moving his body and looked at us like, "Why are you here?" Then he flew away. My son yelled, "What was that?" And I asked him what he saw, because I didn't want to put any ideas into his head, and he described it perfectly to me as well. He then laughed about his little shoes. So, is this part of the little people and the elves and whatnot coming on YouTube? There was a deal about a little. They were taking. The mother had the video camera up and was photographing her baby that was sitting on the floor, and all of a sudden you see this little man-like creature run across just outside the baby's reach, behind the counter. And the baby saw it. You can tell that the baby saw it because he started looking for it. And it makes you wonder, what in the world is this about, do you think?
Well, it's very interesting. In a number of years that I was in the church system and doing some deliverance work and praying for people's houses and, all kind of weird stuff that I did, we ran across situations where we had to really go in and pray, especially in children's bedrooms, because they saw little entities or little toy-like creatures or, little teddy bear-like things. I mean, all kind of stuff. And, of course, we linked it back to the demonic at that time. But it's interesting that you mentioned a change in not only the electromagnetic field, but the atmosphere itself and part of our three dimensions. There are changes occurring, and I'm wondering, I kind of tie this or loop it back a little bit to Augusto Perez and a time he says when darkness really gets heavy, that a lot of these creatures begin to come out in the open, and they just simply can't be denied anymore.
Are you still with us?
Yeah.
Hello?
I hope I am.
Oh.
Hello?
Okay.
Did you lose me?
I can hear you. Well, yeah, I think, Red Elk said that the veil was thinning, and that we would begin to see all kinds of creatures and things that go bump in the night, and it would become very frightening to people. And as we already know, not all of them will obey a command to leave. As we found out from your neighbor down there in Oklahoma, they just kind of look at you and, who are you? It's kind of like, well, Paul I know, and Jesus I know, but who are you to be giving me orders? And it may be coming to the point where it's really going to get heavy that way, and that, when the Lord removes his hand of protection from a nation, everything begins to crumble. And it just makes you wonder. And then we have all this Mothman sightings in Chicago that are still going on. What's your take on that? Mine is that what we're watching is very similar to Port Pleasant, and that this is an evil omen for Chicago, which ties directly into those prophecies about Lake Michigan. And Red Elks said he saw a huge earthquake strike that area. So it makes you wonder, everybody's looking at the West Coast, others are looking on the East Coast, but maybe the Lord would surprise everybody and do it in the middle of the country when they least expect it. What do you think? I know that you keep forwarding those reports. They're really fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. And what's interesting, the Chicago Phantom or the Mothman or creature, as they call it, just keeps cropping up day after day after day. And what's interesting, too, is it's not just Chicago. It's begun to crop up in Canada a little bit and in other areas. And I do think, as in the movie, I can't remember the name of it exactly, Mothman maybe, or something that, that originally came out after that bridge collapse. That appeared to be an ill omen, and for people that could perceive the warning, I guess they would be warned, but it does not appear that many listen or pay attention. Well, yeah.
It was what was interesting about that. Evidently, some people really went in and investigated that. The movie was called, I believe, The Mothman Prophecies, and I think Richard Gere was the one who starred in that. It's really a good movie. If people want to watch a good movie, they should get it. It's called The Mothman Prophecies. It's based on fact, but they had other sightings. They had UFO sightings during that time. An investigator found out. Men in Black also were there. Very strange phone calls with weird voices was also included in that. And I haven't seen anything like that in the Chicago sightings yet. But I don't know. I'm very concerned about that Chicago area because of the number of prophecies concerning it. And anyway, it's just fascinating to me. And the UFO sightings are accelerating, evidently, the world over. Is that your take on it?
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, Stan Dale just posted a UFO map where you could actually track UFO activity. And what's interesting, too, is we're now getting more and more information coming out of Antarctica, it seems, about the anomalous activity there, the underground, we saw the giant staircase that's been revealed now because of melting, and also there's been some recent reports or YouTube reports of strange creatures that are possibly breaking out from under the Antarctica shelf. We're in for a bizarre ride, I think. And one thing, too, that may dovetail into Antarctica a little bit is an Argentinian submarine was supposedly working down in that area, and they lost it. They thought they heard an explosion or something, or it imploded. But I don't know if you've kept up with that or not. They're searching for it, but they don't have any hope.
Yeah, I had heard that they couldn't find it. But it does make you wonder if they're operating down in there because of the underwater UFO activity. And there's been enough films taken. And I have an old picture from the early investigations down there in Antarctica, Project, what was it called? High Jump. And yeah, you can clearly see a disc. It's kind of a worn-out picture, but the disc is clearly discernible. They posted one the other day, but they proved that one was a hoax. But I don't think this one is. It's very old, and you have all the eyewitnesses of disc, and you may remember in High Jump, he came back with his tail between his legs. And there were reports that they ran into these high-tech discs. And, of course, if you go into German history, you find out that they were working exactly on that kind of stuff. And I've often wondered if a UFO invasion or the blue beam invasion might not come from Antarctica because of the uneasiness of the Earth down there, with the disquieting of the core and the slowing of the rotation and the expansion of the Earth all combined may force them out of Antarctica. And where are they going to go? They have to go north. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and at the same time, you remember when we had Stan Dale on some time back, he really laid out Atlantis and part of this situation, and the comet or asteroid hit that moved Antarctica basically from around Saudi Arabia out into the Antarctic region, what we call Antarctica now, that it was literally, that whole landmass was moved by that event. And then he's one also that when we asked Stan where we thought the arrival would come from, and he said, whether from above or below, he said both.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is all going to be well framed up, and of course they're going to come back and claim they are our creators, and therefore they have every right to do whatever they want to do with us. And according to what Stan found out, reviewing Daniel, they're not going to be very pleasant entities to be dealing with. Maybe that's one of the reasons that the Lord pleaded with the humanity, get under my wings and I'll remove you from all this. But if you won't, then you're going to go through it. Yeah, the whole thing is very, very fascinating. And it's been kind of quiet down there in Antarctica. But the military moves aren't. It's still under total military control, as I understand it. right?
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, there's more and more military moving that way, and then also they were hiring private contractors to move into that region. So there's a lot going on down there we just aren't aware of. And especially, too, Stuart, at the same time, they keep receiving or finding more and more strange audible sounds or frequencies coming out of that region.
Yeah. There's some sort of a high-tech operation going on down there, or they wouldn't be so concerned with it. The world leaders wouldn't be going down there to view it. And, of course, they're under strict orders to not talk anything about it. And I believe it's probably part of the strong delusion that the Lord says he's going to, well, the delusion's been here for a long time, but it's going to have an apex, I believe, with the arrival of these entities. Some people call them Anunnaki, whatever they want to call them, doesn't matter. On the domestic front, I got something here from the Health Ranger, and because you were in law enforcement, military contracting companies are being told to prepare for domestic deployment in the near future, meaning that a large-scale operation is being planned in the United States. Mass civil unrest is being planned. What's your take on that? Do you think they'll wait until spring, or are they going to unleash this during the winter?
Well, I don't know, Stuart. We do know that from what I'm seeing out of Washington presently, the coup and the counter-coup is going full blast. I mean, full-on mode at the moment. But you know what I thought of the minute you said that, and I do know I watch a lot of strange movies, but you remember the old movie Jericho that came out a number of years ago, and remember that was a false flag operation using nuclear weapons, and remember the military was fully deployed and the contractors. Remember that, and it wasn't good.
Yeah, it was really, really kind of nasty, and I think it was very realistic. That's the way people would operate, and they want a military. The New World Order is basically, I believe, a total clampdown, probably half alien, half human operation. A joint effort, so to speak, and a population reduction at the same time, and then total surveillance and total control, all coming in together. And you've noticed there is increasing surveillance going on. In fact, it was on Drudge. Cameras everywhere. Facial recognition. They're collecting data on everybody they can collect it on. That has not slowed down. That has accelerated under Trump. And when he was running for president, he said that he thought we needed to have bio cards of some type. So I think it's heading in that direction, along with the launch of the G5 phones and the global brain that they're trying to bring in. But I was just curious, have you seen anything down there or any more activity towards maybe a problem at all?
Well, none other than FEMA trying to get their ham operators and communication grids in place, and they were working hard, the last few months to do that. And we realize that that's going on all over the country, from asking different people. So it's not and what's odd too is Standeo, and his partner is really putting out those EMP shields now. They're going out, they're being mailed out, shipped out. So that's something that's available to people just in case. Like I say, if we wind up with a Jericho scenario, and for people that haven't watched the movie Jericho, they really might want to. There was season 1 and season 2, and then a complete blackout of that film, that film, if you remember.
Oh, yes. Yeah. When you got those satellites of North Korea overhead, every I don't know how fast they go, but they come up from the south and go over the United States, right about in the middle or towards the East Coast. And there are those who claim they are probably an EMP device, and all Kimmy would have to do is push a button, and we would go into darkness. Speaking about Kimmy, he says he's going to continue with his missile launches and probably nuclear tests. Have you seen that?
Well, they've been hearing two things out of that. He's claiming that he's just going to continue doing what he was doing, and of course, Russia. I don't know if you've seen the latest, but matter of fact, Yahoo News posted it to, I guess, yesterday. It says Russia warns of apocalyptic scenario coming on the Korean Peninsula, and basically Putin is telling Trump that there's no easy way out, that this thing is going to go apocalyptic. It's going to be an extreme situation unless the U.S. backs down. So there you are. I mean, we just have to wait and see, but doesn't seem to be improving.
Yeah, I can't imagine Kim backing down at all. And unless Trump is severely restricted by the people around him, he might just decide to preempt. They've got to do something sooner or later. I just can't see any way out of it. But they have these high-tech weaponry. They have these lasers. They have these particle beam weapons, probably microwave lessons that we know about. And so I suppose he could strike at any time and just not say anything. You know, like you were saying, well, maybe they had an asteroid hit. Who knows? What's going on in the Middle East?
Oh, man, that's supercharged over there. I can't really talk about much of the information, but I'm getting information out of the Middle East, and it is a very fragile situation at the moment. Israel has deployed, most all their military, and there are reports today that they're expecting a possible attack on Israel from 3 different directions. In other words, I guess the south and the north, and I'm not sure which other way they're expecting it at the moment. But we are getting word out of the Middle East that Americans especially are being told to possibly prepare to evacuate in case of a war. We do know that Iran is pushing the limit and actually has troops now on the Syrian and Lebanon border regions with Israel. So, matter of fact, Netanyahu today called Putin and warned the Assad regime through Putin that Israel would no longer tolerate Iranian bases inside Syria. So we're looking at a strike one way or the other or both very soon, I think.
Yeah, and they had a very, very important and first of a kind meeting between Putin, Erdogan of Turkey, and Iran, and that's never been done before. So we're watching the alignments that really portend, I guess I should say, the Ezekiel 38-39 wars. And then we have Saudi Arabia, Israel, and America on the other side. So that's a very odd combination in and of itself, too. So there's something in the wind here that we're not seeing. And when you got all this sex stuff going on, and that's basically all that's on the news. So that would tend to confirm that there's something else going on, and this is a diversionary smokescreen for something else that's coming down the pike. What do you think could be coming down the pike? It's kind of hard to discern everything that's going on.
Well, it really is, and at the same time, you've got reports now that the Saudi Arabian crown prince, who hasn't been named king yet but appears to be close to that, is using Blackwater mercenaries inside Saudi Arabia to do his roundups and detention and all of that in that purge. Plus, his security appears to be Blackwater. So, you wonder where all this stands. I'll tell you what, I put Salman, which is his name, Mohammed bin Salman, of Saudi Arabia, in my wild card deck because, there you've got Trump, Salman, and Netanyahu. Putin. And then you got Putin on the other hand. This thing is getting really strange.
Well, it portends that we are very, very close to the Isaiah chapter 17 war or Daniel 8. If I was an Iranian general, I would be urging my government to maybe preempt, because they must know that when this guy gets to be the king, Salman, he's already said publicly he's gonna settle some issues with Iran.
Well, he actually had a meeting with the Arab Alliance in the last couple of days, a personal meeting. I saw some of the photographs, and all the talk was Iran and how to stop Iran. So he seems to claim that he's going to take Iran down.
Yeah, and evidently that would give Iran reason right there to suddenly preempt without any warning. And it does seem to imply, if you read Daniel 8, the first part of it, it implies that this thing just suddenly breaks loose without warning. Before we run out of time, what Stan is going to be with us on Friday to more explain, I guess, this slowing rotation of the Earth, and that 2018 is going to be a huge year for large earthquakes. Have you heard any more about that?
Well, I originally found it on Stan Deo's website this morning, Monday. It says, here's the headline, deadly earthquakes could hit 1 billion people in 2018 because of the Earth's slowing rotation. And there's also a link to the article from dailymail.co.uk in England. And then also John Holler's prophetic many earthquakes to strike in 2018. So I'm wondering, Stuart, and would like your opinion on this. Is it possible that what was going to occur, the awful stuff in 2017, delayed till 2018, which we're right on the verge of now?
Yeah, I think that 2017, 2018 is definitely the pivot. And if nothing happens, then I think we're going in for a long period of time, possibly even 10, 20 years. Remember that the Bible does talk about delay, that the Lord delayed his coming. And so I guess we just have to wait and see. But this slowing of the earth is interesting because the Bible indicates that the earth stops. The rotation of the earth actually stops, and that the winds cease. And, of course, that would mean high tsunami warnings for anybody on the coast. And, of course, Dr. Doom has told everybody, get away from the coast. Don't live by the oceans. Because when it comes, it's going to be virtually so rapid that people will not be able to get away. What's your final word before we close?
Oh, exactly. And Red Elk's warned the same thing. And plus, there's been some new prophetic utterances or directives about a partial polar shift. So we just got to watch.
Yeah, we should get into that maybe on Friday, your vision of the white buffalo. And how Red Elk, or was it Red Elk that gave you the information on that? Or someone else?
No, yeah, that was Red Elk.
That's fascinating. And we do know there's a wobble already, and it's getting bigger and bigger. People are seeing this from the sunrise and the moonrise and sunsets, yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot, everyone, for listening. And we'll either see you on Wednesday or on Friday night. And thanks a lot, Larry, for coming on. Good night, everyone.